Talk about the four religions. We got Buddhism, Christianity, Islam, Hinduism. Islam is the third. Third quadrant seems more violent and everything. And one thing that Muhammad says, he talks about four types of people, and then he says afterwards, like, isn't the Allah amazing? I forget exactly what he said, but then there's an exclamation point. So again, but you see the quadrant in Islam. You have the four great caliphs after Muhammad's death. The four great rulers that ruled after Muhammad. Three were similar. The fourth was different. You see the quadrant with this. Let me see what else I want to say about it. But even the Quran says the Quran looks highly upon the Jews. So it says that the Jews. It says that Israel belongs to the Jews, and it says good things about the Jews, and that the Jews are God's people, and so even the Quran does this. But the and it says that in the end times, the Gentiles will believe. Most of the Gentiles will a lot of the Gentiles will believe. So he says that the Christians and the Muslims, they will believe, but he says that the Jews will not. So once again, the Jews are depicted as fourth quadrant oriented, not believing, but the Gentiles are depicted as more second quadrant oriented, believing. Once again, it's kind of it's not necessarily a diss to say that they're not believing, because it's showing them, depicting them as more fourth quadrant oriented. Yeah. And then we got Hinduism. I'll just say one thing with the Hinduism. We see genetics always in this stuff. So I hear a lot of Christian or religious people in general saying that they don't believe in Darwinism or in natural selection and stuff. Well, if you read Jeremiah, Jeremiah says that even the prophets are selfish, and he says that, and then right afterwards he describes, and I forget exactly what he was describing, but it was something like some animal protecting its eggs, maybe a bird or something protecting its eggs. So I see kind of, this idea of a creature protects its genes. It protects itself. It protects its children because they have the same genes. And this is where selfishness derives. People want to protect themselves, their egos, and they want to protect their children, people that are related to them. People want to protect their genes. They want their genes to be passed on. Solomon understood genetics, or this natural selection principle in the story of Solomon. So Solomon has the two women come to him, and one of the women suffocated her baby, and the other woman took the baby, she suffocated her baby on accident when she was asleep, and she took another woman's baby because she was so distressed about it, and this was her defense mechanism to make it. She was trying to convince herself that she hadn't killed her baby by taking this other woman's baby. So she takes the other woman's baby, and she pretends it's hers, but then the other woman goes to Solomon and says, see, she took my baby, can you have her give it back? And then Solomon says, okay, well, you know what we'll do? We'll cut it in half, and I'll give one half to you and then one half to the other. And then the actual mother, the woman who had the baby taken from her, she says, no, just let her keep the baby. But then the woman who took the baby says, yeah, okay, I'll do it. So why is that? It's because of the genes. The woman who had the baby, whose baby it was actually hers, she's not going to have the baby killed because it's going to be her genes that are being killed. And the woman who took the baby, she doesn't care if the baby's killed, honestly. She just wants herself to feel better. But if the baby's killed, it doesn't really matter to her too much because it's not half of her genes inside of that baby. So genetics is important in this. So then we see in the Bhagavad Gita, you see the form in all these things, in all these texts, but I'll just give some principles that I see in the Bhagavad Gita. So you have Arjuna, I think was his name. He was a prince, and he has his formulas. He's saying, he's talking to Krishna, and he's saying to Krishna, hey, Krishna, isn't it better to not fight? shouldn't I be an ascetic type of person who doesn't fight and who meditates and I should do this. The reason why he's telling Krishna this is because Krishna's telling him that he needs to fight against his family, his grandparents and other people who are on the other side of the battlefield who are against him. And Arjuna is saying, he's trying to get out of it. He's trying to say, hey, isn't it best that I don't fight? Because you don't want to kill your members of your family who are opposite of you because they share your genes. You don't want to do that. But then Krishna says, no, you must go, you must fight. So Arjuna ends up fighting. So this is representative of him letting go of his desire to preserve his genes. And this ends up making Arjuna powerful, more powerful in the end. Your desire to let go of yourself, of your ego, of your genes, sometimes can help you. Although it's very difficult. But like I said, people often flow when they're not thinking about their ego, about their body, about what other people think about them. The same type of thing happened when, remember when Abraham has to sacrifice his son Isaac. And Abraham's about to sacrifice him because God says, Abraham, you must sacrifice your son. What does his son represent? His son represents his genes. It's half of his genes in that son. And God says, you must sacrifice this. So Abraham goes to the top of the mountain, and then he's about to sacrifice his son. And then right before he does it, though, God grabs his hand, and Isaac is not killed. Or God stops Abraham from doing it, and Isaac is not killed. I think it was an angel stopped him. And then Abraham, after this, he was then worthy to be pretty much a king to have. Then he has all the Jewish people as his descendants. So in his willingness to sacrifice his son, he ended up having actually helping himself out. Now he has a ton of descendants, so his genes end up being passed on the most. So in your desire to let go of, in your ability to let go of your ego, your desire to preserve your genes, sometimes it ends up working the best. Like I said, when you're flowing and stuff, you're not worried about how you look. You're not worried about how people think about you, how that girl thinks about you so much necessarily. Sometimes you do actually, but you kind of let go of these desires. You let go of your awareness of yourself, of your body is not there. You are more free of your ego. Some would even argue that Jesus was the same type of thing. So Jesus was willing to sacrifice himself, and remember that Jesus was Jewish, and this is an interesting thing. Some of the Jewish people thought that Jesus was a bastard, and that his father was a Roman. So once again, Jesus did not belong in the community, and you have to remember that. But according to the Gospels, Jesus' dad was God, but there were rumors, and it's discussed in the Talmud that Jesus' dad was actually a Roman. So, but anyways, Jesus, he shares genes with the Jewish people because his mother's a Jew. He's a Jew. So in sacrificing himself, like I depicted, he ended up converting. Most of the world converted to Christianity, or the offshoot of Christianity, which was Islam, which is a lot like Christianity, but just says that Jesus is not the Messiah, or is not God. And but Jesus, and in so doing, the Jewish people were preserved, and therefore a lot of the same genes, because Jesus, he had Jewish genes, and the Jewish people were preserved. So a lot more of his genes were preserved than if he would have tried to, not go along with it and not be willingly sacrificed in order to convert the world to the religion of or to sects of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, and all the other offshoots of that, like Mormonism, Baha'i, all these other religions that grew out of Christianity and Islam. So just stuff to think about. Just trying to put out some theories that I think are, that I thought about, I think are pretty valid. All right, so hopefully continue more later.